Well, hello everyone. I am sorry to let you down. I know my hair is not what it was cracked up to be. So thanks, Adam and Tim. Really set me up to start on a strong note there. On the note of whether the teacher from Ecclesiastes exists, well, we actually don't know. The teacher is not the person who writes Ecclesiastes. That's the author. We also don't know who the author is. But the theory is that the teacher is actually not real. But anyway, let's get started. The most common word that I heard in school was however. Now, this was especially common in parent-teacher interviews. I would very often get a spiel of, oh, Hamish is a very capable student who has a lot of potential. However, and then my teachers would go on and explain how I was a frequently distracted and distracting student, how I would often not get my homework done, yada, yada, yada. I was a bit of trouble. Now, one of my teachers in a parent-teacher interview once told me and my parents that I reminded him of his dog because I am so hyperactive and hard to control. Now, much like that teacher, the teacher in Ecclesiastes is a little bit harsh at times, and he's a favorite word, like my teachers. Now, this word is hebel. It's an old Hebrew word, and what it literally translates to is smoke, like you would get if I blew this candle out. What it's often translated to in the book of Ecclesiastes is meaningless. So there's a lot of the word meaningless throughout the book. And the teacher talks about three things that are meaningless in the world. He talks about how the world is unjust, how we are insignificant in the world, and how death exists in the world. It's quite a harsh and quite a dark picture. Now, everyone here who has a sibling knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say injustice, or when the teacher says injustice. Because everyone here with a sibling has had it happen where their sibling goes running to their parents screaming or something about something that you've done that you didn't do. And then, guaranteed, your parents took your sibling's side and not yours. And you were left feeling incredibly frustrated and just annoyed at the injustice of it all. And the teacher is talking to us about how our world is much the same. We can do a lot of work and really push towards getting some reward and then not get that reward. And the second thing that the teacher talks about, the second harsh thing about the world, is how insignificant we are. He talks about how if you strive for success and you become the most successful person in the world, you're incredibly rich or successful and everyone knows your name, in not too long after you're gone, people will forget about you. A great example of this is a man called Johannes Gutenberg. Now, I'm betting that none of you know who Johannes Gutenberg is. I didn't know who Johannes Gutenberg is before I wrote this. But Johannes Gutenberg is the person who invented the printing press. The printing press had a huge impact on the world. It was very revolutionary. And he's actually rated as the 8th most influential person in the world. But his name is not a household name like many people. Yet he did so much. So this is the thing that the teacher is talking about in Ecclesiastes. He talks about how no matter what we do on this earth, the earth will forget us. And the last thing that the teacher in Ecclesiastes talks about is death. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but he says, no matter who you are, if you do good things, bad things, if you're a wise person or not a wise person, if you are a godly person or a non-godly person, we all face death. And this is the end of the broad and quite bleak and sad, maybe even a bit scary picture that the teacher poses to us. Now, all of these things are hebel. And what that means is, like smoke, if we reach out and try and grab things in this world, it's just going to go through our fingers. But, so things like if we try and grab onto justice, if we try and get the right thing, we're often not. And if we try and make a big thing of ourselves and be successful, people aren't going to remember us. And, no matter what, death is coming. So we can't grab hold of anything in this world. But And this is the beautiful thing about Ecclesiastes. At the end, the author of Ecclesiastes addresses these things that the teacher says. And he brings God into the picture. And God, in quite an incredible way, flips these things. The injustice, when we introduce God into the picture, well, we're told that God in the end of days will make bring all actions into judgment, both right and wrong, and all injustices will be corrected. I like to imagine that once we go up into heaven, you and your sibling who, told your parents that you did something that you didn't, and then you got in trouble for it, I'd like to think that when we're up in heaven, God will give your sibling a nice little telling off, and then we'll all be able to have a laugh about it. I don't know if this is actually what's going to happen, but it's fun to think about. And if we think about Johannes Gutenberg, the person who did so much and no one really remembers him, well, I'd like to imagine this picture of God with Johannes by his side in front of a big crowd of people up in heaven and saying, "Look at Johannes, look what he did, my child." And I'd like to think that whatever we do, God will be the same. And God's love for us is so unfathomable, but it gives us so much worth, and we are not insignificant when God comes into the picture. And, well, death isn't such a full stop anymore. We have eternity ahead of us in perfection with God, and we get to spend the rest of our days praising our Creator. How incredible. So this first solution that Ecclesiastes gives us is just so awesome. I just love how it gives us these three things and it leaves us feeling, down. But then the secret ingredient of God comes in and it just changes everything. And the other solution that Ecclesiastes gives us is a cool one. And it's very, very practical. You can use it in your everyday life. It's to focus on the little things, the little pleasures in your day-to-day life. Ecclesiastes talks about a nice dinner, or things like a lovely sunset, or great relationships with your friends, or, a lovely setup that we've got here is some little thing that I'm happy for at the moment. And we can sit down and reflect on those things. And it's interesting because the word hebel comes in here too. If we try and grab onto those things, these things of the world, and we keep them and we say, I'm going to keep this sunset forever, we're not going to be able to hang on to them. But Ecclesiastes encourages us to sit down, pause, smell the flowers, look at the sunset and let it pass and thank God for it and just enjoy the little things. And that can save us from these sad ways of thinking, and it helps us to really enjoy the gifts that God has given us. Now, I had a really cool thing planned here with the candle, but Dave Sobey was too scared that I'd burn the building down because, I'm not the most responsible of people, so I'm not allowed to light my candle. But I had a really cool thing planned, so I'm just going to do it anyway, and you're going to have to go along with me. I was going to blow out this candle, and then I was going to grab at the smoke. And as you all could probably guess, the smoke would not have stayed in my hand. I wouldn't have been able to collect it and hold on to it. And that's like the things of the world. But if I just bring this scented candle with the smoke drifting up from it, and I take a nice sniff, and I let it go past me, and I enjoy it, and I place it back, then that's how we can really enjoy the little gifts that God has for our lives. So the takeaway I want for all of you, as you go into your weeks, I know a lot of you are on holidays, some of you are probably a week away. I want you to just think about the little things. Even right now, what's one little thing in the room around you that you can be thankful for? Maybe you're having fun with your friends, or you're just glad to have some time with your friends or your leaders. Think about those little things and how you're thankful for them. And remember, when life gets unfair, which it will, or when you feel insignificant, just think about God and how He can flip those things. So I hope you have a lovely week. Enjoy the rest of your small groups. Thanks for coming to Shift Live. And I'll see you guys soon.